Bridges. By what am I thinking? Roxanne's fingers traced the edge of the community center kitchen counter, a familiar place that had once been filled with warmth. The memories of shared meals after long outreach shifts, the rhythmic chop of a knife on a cutting board, the sizzling of ingredients in the wok, felt distant now, like echoes of a song that had quietly reached its end. All that remained was silence and a question that had haunted her for days: what was the point of it all? James, the man who had been her partner for the past 2 years, was gone. They had met during their initial peer specialist training and spent consecutive winters providing critical street support to unhoused groups along the Capitol riverfront. She had pleaded for him to stay, begged him to at least try to salvage what they had. But it was too late. He had already left emotionally, long before he gathered his things and walked out the door. His departure hadn't been sudden. It had been slow, a subtle disintegration of trust, intimacy, and hope that she had watched crumble before her eyes. Working together in relational stabilization meant managing high-crisis situations, but they could not stabilize their own connection. Yet, she had held on to the belief that things could somehow be different, that this time, they might make it work. They never did. She had tried to understand it, convinced herself it wasn't all her fault, but sometimes, her heart whispered a different story. Maybe, just maybe, if I had been more, if I had loved differently, things might have turned out differently. But she hadn't, and neither had he. Roxanne let out a long sigh and collapsed onto the couch. The fabric, soft beneath her, provided little comfort to the ache in her chest. The emptiness inside felt vast now, a quiet kind of loss that left her feeling like she was floating, untethered. Her phone vibrated on the coffee table. She saw Max's name on the screen, and her stomach did a quick, unexpected twist. Max. He was a fellow peer specialist, new to the district. Just someone she had met by chance while grabbing a coffee at a cafe near the Farragut West Metro station. Someone who had become an unexpected presence in her life, showing up at moments when she hadn't even realized she needed him, occasionally offering an extra hand during mobile community outreach. Unlike James, Max didn't possess that smooth, effortless charm or make grand promises of forever. He didn't try to fill the space James had left behind. Instead, Max felt like something else. Mysterious, elusive, something she didn't know how to quite label. She had promised herself to keep her distance. After all, Max was a traveling crisis consultant, a wanderer. People like him never stuck around the Navy Yard submarket for long. But here he was now, calling again. Roxanne hesitated for a moment, her fingers trembling slightly as she swiped to answer. Hey Roxanne, you all right? His voice was warm, like a calm hand placed gently on her shoulder in a moment of uncertainty. He didn't need to ask, he already knew something was wrong. Lived experience gave him an innate ability to sense a crisis, before a single word was spoken. I don't know, she confessed, her voice a mixture of frustration and sadness. I'm just trying to make sense of it all, Max. James left and I don't even know why, it just ended abruptly. There was a soft pause on the other end of the line, a space where Roxanne's words could settle. You don't have to have all the answers right now, you never will. I hate it, she said, clenching her teeth. I hate how people in my life just leave, how something that felt so solid can just vanish. It's like they're all bridges, Max, here 1 minute and cross over and gone the next. Max's tone softened, as if he had anticipated her frustration. His voice held a quiet understanding. Ever think maybe that's the point? Roxanne frowned, surprised by his response. What do you mean? Maybe they're not meant to stay, Max replied. Maybe they're just there to help you get somewhere else. People come into our lives, teach us what we need to learn, and then they leave. If they stayed forever, we may never grow. Roxanne leaned back into the couch, her mind turning his words over and over, like a stone rolling in a river. It didn't feel comfortable, but it felt true in a way that nothing else had. What if he was right? She gazed out the window at the city below. The streets of Navy Yard were alive with the buzz of another baseball game night. The city pulsed with an energy she couldn't fully understand, a rhythm that never took a pause. People came, people went, and the district kept moving. Roxanne's own relationships, those she had invested so much in, felt like fragments of a past that lingered, even though the people were long gone, and still, Max's words echoed in her mind. They're just bridges. Do you ever think that maybe we're just passing through each other's lives? She asked quietly. That maybe the reason we connect is because we're not meant to stay. Max paused, and the faint sound of wind rushing through his phone reminded her of his own transient nature, likely walking across the National Mall or heading to an outreach hub. All the time, he said, his voice carrying a distant yet comforting sound. But I think that's the most important part, Roxanne, the coming and the going, the in-between is where everything happens. Roxanne closed her eyes, trying to picture the people who had crossed her path, the ones who had stayed, the ones who had left. Each had been a bridge, fleeting connections to parts of herself she hadn't yet discovered. And while their departures had caused pain, the lessons they left behind were roads she had to travel. Perhaps that was their true gift, not their love or their permanence, but the wisdom they imparted before they walked away. The entire world, she realized, was full of bridges. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough. Maybe you're right, she said, her voice quieter now, but more resolute. Maybe I needed them, and now, maybe I need to see what comes next. Exactly, Max replied, his tone warm and steady. It's not about holding on, Roxanne, it's about seeing the journey for what it is. Every bridge leads somewhere new. Roxanne held the phone to her ear, a quiet understanding settling over her like a soft blanket. She didn't know where the journey would lead, but for the first time in a long time, she wasn't afraid of it. The people who had crossed her path and the ones who would follow were part of something bigger, something more intricate than she could see from where she stood. She wasn't stuck, she was simply moving toward a new beginning. That thought unexpectedly gave her a strange sense of peace. Thanks, Max, she said softly, the gratitude of the conversation settling within her. You'll figure it out, he said, his voice confident, a promise unspoken but understood. As Roxanne ended the call and set her phone down, she looked around the empty apartment one final time. The silence that had once felt suffocating wasn't as thick anymore. The room felt different now, like it was waiting for her to leave it behind, to go somewhere new, somewhere yet to be discovered. Maybe that was the lesson after all. People weren't meant to be bound. They were meant to be bridges. And Roxanne was finally ready to cross.